So, Nick,
Yeah.
tell me about Theresa May and what her strengths are.
Well, I think her strengths are the fact that she's sort of an old-fashioned politician. If you think about sort of from 97 onwards, when Tony Blair became Prime Minister, being a politician he was surrounded by celebrities, sort of Britpop. Cameron was sort of Notting Hill set. She's more traditional, sort of gets on with the job, sort of no frills. And I think that's extremely good. And from an image perspective, I think it works. Right now, Britain is in flux. We have these Brexit negotiations. Very few people are saying they're going to go well. So what she's trying to do, very cleverly, she's trying to say, we are strong and I am stable. And again, cleverly, she is saying to the electorate, you need to give me a massive majority so I can be even more stable with my decision making. It's a little bit of emotional blackmail. I mean, it actually reminds me of a kind of when George W. Bush went, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. It was like, well, can't I be not with the terrorists, but actually think your ideas are not very good either? Do you see what I mean? So her tactic, which I actually think is probably a smart tactic when it comes to actually winning elections, is we need a strong, stable government. And because of our first past the post system, that would give her the best opportunity if she had like a majority of 100, for example.
And how does she portray strength?
Well, she's very well spoken. She's very clear. She doesn't rush. Actually, when she speaks, there's a lot of stillness there, which if you look at the classic, if you look at your movie stars, for example, and you look at someone who's portraying strength in a movie like a king or whatever, they tend to be very still. And also, I mean, again, it's an accent thing, but she has that sort of ruling classes accent. In fact, I would also argue that one of her strengths, and I don't know if this is unconscious or conscious, but she's definitely channeling Mrs. Thatcher. Vocally, she's got sort of a very sort of open sound in her voice. She's got a very similar accent. Obviously, she's female, similar age. She's quite still, she's quite poised. But it's actually the sounds, the vowel sounds. They're very close. And I'd be surprised if there's anyone in the House of Commons who sounds as much like Mrs. Thatcher as Theresa May. Now, it's very coincidental that she's Prime Minister now, but I remember there was this moment when she was in PMQs and she had to answer a question, and right at the end she just went, "Remind you of anybody?" like this, in this kind of very kind of sort of Thatcher-esque way. And I went, wow, that sounded just like Mrs. Thatcher. And I just wondered if it was deliberate or not.
And is that a strength?
Definitely, because unconsciously we're looking for someone to keep us secure. I mean, if you psychologists will tell you that humans all have needs, and depending on where we're at, maybe towards the end of the 20th century when people were feeling very safe, the Cold War had seemingly ended, the economy was everything seemed to be going well, so you could probably take more risks. But right now, there's so many issues, you've had the financial crisis, which is still fresh in our minds, you've got the rise of ISIS, Donald Trump's just been elected, and obviously Brexit is incredibly worrying for people, because we don't know what's going to happen. There's nothing worse for an electorate than worrying about the unknown. So when you have all that anxiety happening, you want someone who appears to know what they're doing and has that strength. And the way she sounds, the fact she's channeling Mrs. Thatcher, does allude to a certain kind of strength, both intellectual and sort of from an experience perspective.
So what's her weakness?
Well, it depends how you look at it. It's a strength and a weakness. She never answers the question. She's brilliant at not answering the question, and she does it in a very polite and sort of dignified way. Also, I suppose, when she's answering a question, or when she's just talking generally, she has this strange reaction her face sort of does, almost unconsciously, where she just looks profoundly uncomfortable. Now, again, that is a weakness in the sort of the super slick politician who's supposed to be very good at communicating perspective. However, again, it does lend itself to this idea that she's really authentic. So it actually ends up being a strength. The fact that she's not very good at looking comfortable and relaxed, in a way, makes her seem authentic, which actually is more important in lots of ways than being comfortable and relaxed. Because instantly, John Major was the same. He wasn't that charismatic. But what people wanted as an antidote to Mrs. Thatcher was someone who wasn't a sort of a massive sort of star, well, actually someone who just sort of got on with the job and was sort of stable. And it's that similar kind of thing, I think.